what causes conflicts in a relationship. Two people who have fallen in love and they are mesmerized with each other and they are curious and completely taken by the other person. There is so much that they are looking forward to. They have dreams. They have all kinds of goals that they want. There are things they want to do. There are places they want to go. But then along the way, they lose that momentum. What happens and how do you manage that space of conflict? If you look at research on the developmental stages of marriage or long-term relationship, you will realize that there is a stage that we call the conflict stage. And the conflict stage, you will hear it being called the drama stage of marriage, the drama stage of a relationship. And usually that is the time when the two people are beginning to learn to live with each other. They say that you fall in love with somebody, you marry them, you choose them to be your partner, and for the rest of your life, you are learning how to love them. Sometimes we don't realize that once we enter into marriage, we have what we call unmet and unspoken expectations. So unmet expectations is one of the reasons why you will have a conflict that will be unmanageable or unresolvable within a couple relationship. So what are examples of unmet expectations? Examples of unmet expectations will come probably from your personality. So for instance, let me use the example of a melancholic. Melancholic individuals are perfectionistic, they love order, they are analyzers, and they love to resolve issues. They don't like things that are left undone, but also they are black and white thinkers. There is a right way and a wrong way. And then they are also justice oriented. If something has happened, it needs to be resolved. It needs to be paid for. Now the melancholic is going to struggle with letting things go. So when you come into that conflict space, they are not going to be able to focus on the conflict right now because they have this burden they are carrying from things which have not been done correctly. The perfectionism is going to enter into this space, and therefore, because they don't know how to express their need for perfection, their need for things to be resolved fast before we deal with this one, then there will be a space in where there is a gridlock. We are unable to move forward because they keep moving backwards. And we need to understand that that is driven by their desire for perfection. The choleric is also goal directed. And so the choleric's goal is not to dig up what happened in the past, is to deal with what is right here, right now. So when the melancholic brings the past, the choleric is going now to be fixated on why are we bringing up the past. And even them, they will be gridlocked because their need is to deal with the goal right now. And while their partner who is melancholic is saying, but we can't deal with what is right now until we deal with what is back there. The choleric and the sanguine, they tend to think if it happens in the past, we forget about it and we deal with the current. They feel burdened when they have to go back there. The melancholic and the phlegmatic, they will want to resolve things behind there, but the phlegmatic, because of the fear of conflict, they will avoid. But what you will see body language, you will see withdrawal of deeper connections from the phlegmatic because they are holding on to things that have happened in the past. They are not willing to talk about them, and there is that feeling of they have built a wall, and so they are not engaging. But the melancholic is going to engage very much, but they are going to be engaging, trying to fix the past in order for us to deal with the present. You see how now this unmet, unspoken expectation is going to cause the couple not to be able to move away from the conflict. And that is how they form and develop what now we call recurring fights, because they are unable to move forward. One of the root causes of and resolved conflicts within a relationship comes from the fact that we are attracted to the opposite. We tend to gravitate towards people who are not like us. The melancholic who is a blue is going to be attracted to a brighter color, like now the choleric or the sanguine. And what is going to happen, these two people, the way they view life and the expectations they have out of a relationship, unless it is put on the table and for them to understand it, they are going to conflict quite a bit. So one of the causes of conflict in a relationship is going to be unmet expectations that is rooted in the way we are wired. And also now it leads to miscommunication, lack of effective communicating of what we need. And therefore, it leads now to the place where we start comparing ourselves with each other. Myself, this is the way I usually do things. And we start to have misunderstandings, and also it can move into judgment and criticism. Instead of understanding, seeking to understand the other person. And that's where I was talking about in the previous video, learning how to together accommodate each other by seeking to understand the person you are with. In that space of communication, where there is ineffective communication, there is the issue of anger management. So that now when I'm triggered by the conflict, I am not able to manage my anger. So I react. I will go now to the extremes that I talked about in the previous video, the threatening, the humiliating, the verbal abuse, the calling each other names, the taking away privileges or things that are supposed to be within a marriage relationship. When we are unable to manage our emotions, then it is going to create miscommunication, and it is going to create harm within the relationship, and it causes now recurring problems within the marriage. The other thing that usually is a big problem is the problem of, I call it sexual, I don't know whether to call it sexual energies or the way we are wired sexually. So one person is wired with a high need for sexual involvement, and the other person has low. So you might call it a difference in libido, but you can also call it a difference in dopamine seeking. Pleasure that we get from having physical sexual contact is very high. It triggers a lot of dopamine, and there are people who have a need for high dopamine. So if you marry a person who has lower need for that dopamine experience, you might find that now that can create conflict, and big conflicts within that marriage, because then the partner who needs probably daily triggers to that dopamine through sexual activity is going to feel neglected. They are going to feel that their needs are not being met, and that now can lead to conversations that are conflicted because you don't even know what the issue is. And then that is when you find there will be moving out of the marriage and having affairs in various forms. And that is going to create a lot of conflict within that marriage. But the root cause is usually this incompatibility when it comes to the levels of desire, sexual desire. Two people might be married, and one of them, the way they feel connected with the other one is through sexual activity, while the other one is saying, me, I just want to be close to you, touch you, but not have to end up in intercourse. Now, if the couple is not able to see that is the disparity, that is the conflict, then they are going to fight a lot, and there will be recurring fights that will come out of that. And only a professional marriage therapist might be able to help you and your spouse get to the root of the problem. The other thing that we have as a cause of conflicts within a marriage is finances. So we have different ways that we look at money. Some people, money is status. So a person who money is status may have come from a home where there was a lot of money, and so they were elevated within their community because they were rich. And so this person is going to look at money as a way to elevate who they are, their status. Then we have a person who money is security. And this probably, for the most part, people who see money as a security is people who come from poverty, that they lived with lack. And so now they see money as a way to eradicate poverty. And so these are the people that you will see who want to save a lot. They don't want to buy expensive things. They really want to live a life of frugality because they are afraid of lack. They are thinking that we may use this money and then we will have nothing. Then number 3, we have people who see money as liberty, freedom, and these are the people who will work for money and then they want that money to work for them. So they want to enjoy the benefits of the money. And then we also have individuals who look at money as a way of controlling what is going on around their environment. In marriage, we have seen conflicts that come from one person who makes more money controlling the other person because they are economically well off than their spouse. Or we can also see somebody who is insecure in the relationship because their spouse is making more money. And we have seen that, or they have more education. We have seen that where now jealousies begin to grow in that relationship. And instead of these two people coming together and seeing this money as our money, or seeing it as an opportunity for them to grow as a couple, they see it as a dividing aspect where now because you have money, then you have no respect for me, or because you have money, me, I'm afraid to come into the space of our marriage as an equal partner. So we do need to kind of understand that those are some unspoken things that will create a lot of conflict within a relationship and recurring conflict within a relationship. Then the other thing that we have is personal fears. Personal fears, I will talk also about personal unhealed trauma. Having grown up in a space where either there was violence in the home, there was neglect, and there was experiences of we are not safe within this home, and therefore when I come into the marriage, I am coming with defensiveness, that I am afraid that something bad is going to happen, and therefore you trigger, the person I'm married to triggers a lot of fear in me and anxiety and depression. My mental health is not in a space where I can handle the normal conflict in a relationship. Over time, that is going to grow into bigger conflicts where now we can go now to the extremes of name calling, the neglect, the deflating, the competitiveness, even the contempt, where now we are not able to hold space for the person who is being triggered. When you go into your marriage, make sure that you are not being triggered to go back to that space, because then you can't resolve any conflict, because you have become very sensitive to anything that is going to remind you of what you went through before. The other cause of conflict within a marriage would be power struggles, and that is where now the competitive relationship comes in. So when we have a conflict, there are people who refuse to be held accountable. I hear this a lot in couples therapy, where someone will say that my spouse, it doesn't matter whether I am right, I have evidence, they never agree that they did something wrong. They are not willing to be accountable. They are those individuals, the moment you demand accountability from them, they go into defense mode. Now, defense mode doesn't always mean you are running away from the problem. Sometimes the way you defend yourself is by being cruel, by being physically abusive, verbally abusive. That is a way of defending yourself, because the moment you are called to be accountable, you immediately go into a fight-flight space. And that is going to cause a lot of conflict within, a lot of unresolved and recurring conflict. Look for the issue that can be resolved. so that if you resolve the issue, you remove it from the plate of stressors. Because then you clean up your relationship and you are able to manage now the things that are coming from day to day. So you are not, so that now your spouse is saying you have done it again. And now you are going like, you keep reminding me of the past. You see, so why don't you agree together? These are the issues, and you separate the emotions from the issue. So the issue is XYZ, and this is how I feel about how you approach me. Because the emotional space of our relationship causes us not to deal with the issue. So if I am feeling defensive because you yelled at me, if I'm feeling defensive because the way you come at me, it sounds like you are criticizing, judging, and accusing me, then we will never resolve the real issue. Even me, who is feeling judged, I need to let my spouse know that I am hearing the issue, and I am also hearing how upset you are, and I don't like the fact that you yell at me. So we separate the issues from the emotions so that we can be able to deal. And I hope that kind of makes sense on how to look at recurring issues, that it's not really the issue. What is recurring is the emotional triggers that we are experiencing every time there is a conflict. And then when we focus on defending myself, attacking and counterattacking, then we will never resolve the issue. Because now we are fighting for our space. I'm fighting for my rights. You're fighting for your rights. We have departed from the relationship. So I'm now dealing with my ego. You are dealing with your ego. Nobody is dealing with the relationship. And so that is why we will keep relationship issues coming up year after year. And so the person who is responsible for the conflict, for the issue that is bringing conflict, needs to take charge of it and resolve it. I will be glad to walk with you in your relationship, whether you are married or dating, so that I can help you learn these skills and these insights early in your relationship. And even if you are married, we can still do what we call marriage mentorship by doing couples counseling, but coaching, helping you with the skill set you need to rectify, to repair what has happened, and now going forward to learn new ways of dealing with conflict within your marriage relationship. I'll continue to live by design and reach out to me in order for me to assist you in moving through the kind of relationship you desire to have.